I'm sitting down, I'm having a cold one, and I figured, you know what? Probably a really good opportunity to talk a little bit about the Shitbox-Fox, and more specifically, because I keep talking here and there about values of Fox bodies, and a shitbox deserves to be spoken about because, well, that car really isn't a shitbox anymore. And a lot of you have mentioned that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So stick around, grab yourself a beer. Hopefully you've got a tip koozie. That is one other thing that I don't do very much of. I really don't push a lot of product on you guys. And here I am sitting with a bunch of new merch that is out. I got new hats with new colors. I've got new t-shirt designs. In fact, I've got another t-shirt that's going to be released soon. So you guys are definitely going to want to check that out on my website, theinfamousproject.com. So pick up your merch. It helps support the channel, helps me doing what I'm doing. So anyways, stick around and we'll get right back into talking about just how much is a Shitbox-Fox worth. All right, guys, so I'm gonna have my phone in front of me a little bit here because I actually made a spreadsheet that broke down all of the time and money that has been invested into this so-called shitbox. And I have to say, right off the bat, this car never would have been built without your help. So whether you guys supported the channel and commented or subscribed, to help motivate, because it's not always about money. Sometimes it's about knowing that what I'm about to embark on is going to positively impact somebody. And I feel like this car did exactly that. The amount of comments of people that have had shit boxes or projects that have been laying in the corner collecting dust, or maybe in the barn, or maybe sitting outside, whatever it is, that we're like, man, I actually want to go work on my car now. Well, I'm glad that that made a difference and that helped motivate you, because that, in a sense, helped motivate me to go ahead with that project. And I had no intentions of building that car. You can go back to the early videos, like it was literally a joke. But because of your support, whether it was through all the feedback and the comments and everything else, or those who donated time, there was quite a few of you, whether, Jerry did parts runs to LMR at the last minute of the last hour before we were trying to get on the road. We have Gary that's flown to Texas twice to help out with this build. We've had people donate money, we've had people donate parts, and all of that was, of course, showcased in the engine bay of the car. Everybody's names that has contributed in some way, shape, or form, we wanted to try and show and give recognition to those. So thank you guys very much for all of that, and the Shitbox thanks you. So if you guys follow the podcast, me and Gary do, so we do a once a week, 2 to 3 hour garage bullshit session. And sometimes we have guests, sometimes we don't. The podcast is called Rollin' in My 5.0. You can catch it on Spotify or iPhone, iTunes, whatever iPhone has for any of you iPhone users out there. You can catch it on there. And on one of the wrap up, I think it was with the 5.0 Asylum guys, we said, we got like $40,000 tied up in this shitbox in labor alone. That's right, guys. Labor alone, like $40,000. And I'm going to break it down to you so you guys can actually do the math yourselves. But I think that's a really important point, that whether you guys are in a project, man, that is like, helicopter must be flying like right over my house right now. Let's get a little further. I can actually like feel or hear the vibrations in the shop here. So we've got this all broken down in a couple different ways that you want to look at it, because some of you guys that are building your own projects or whatever else, your labor might be free, right? So we can look at that, and then we'll look at, well, what if we were just charging ourselves a little bit of labor? What's realistic? And then like, what would the cost have been if we actually like sent it to a shop that has like $150 an hour labor rate. So we're going to look at all of those things right now so you guys can get a little bit of context about the so-called Shitbox-Fox, which I really want to call it like a pro touring car with bad paint. It's probably the best way to describe it now, because the reality is it has full suspension. It's got full upgraded big brakes. It's got beautiful wheels on it. It has a freshly restored interior in many respects. It has sound system. It has a really nice 347 stroker, which was an amazing surprise to come to find out when we started cleaning up and gasketing the motor and everything. So everything is actually really nice on that car, except for the paint. But the paint makes the car. So that's a whole other topic of conversation, the whole rat rod, shitbox looking patina thing and that sense of style. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the amount of time and money invested into the car. So with that said, I want to share with you guys how much money, physical money, was donated to the car. For anybody that was curious, we got $750 in cash. So straight up cash that would have gone towards buying some of the parts that we needed from LMR, maybe some used parts that we bought along the way, whatever it might have been, costs, maybe a little bit of a beer, right? So $750 there. And then we had all of the parts that were donated. And the reality here, it's hard to put a price on what all those parts were that were donated. So I don't really have a monetary value on those. And we don't really need one because, well, they were donated. So they were zero freebies, however you want to look at it. Now, costs, money that I spent personally on the car. And just to kind of give you guys a little bit of an idea, and this is not including that $750 that was donated in cash, guys. This is money out of my pocket that I needed to spend in terms of getting this car up and running. So the cost of the car, I paid $1,000 for it, right? And I had to give Ricky $200 in terms of his time for his truck and trailer and fuel to go get the car. I had coilovers. My prototype coilovers are on there, so I have the cost of that. The wheels and tires, I had to give up another T5 transmission that I had laying around. The brakes, not the Brembos, that was actually used out of the 750, but the calipers, the rotors, the powder coating, all of the other stuff, I had to pay for that. I had to pay for the control arms, stereo components that I was out of pocket for, kill mat, the lights. So that probably would have been LED bulbs and everything else. Not the one-piece headlights, like those are actually probably worth negative money. K-member and a new computer. So my out-of-pocket costs were $8,500, okay? So right there, in terms of like money, we're over $9,000 into that shitbox. Now, we can't forget about Gary. Gary had 2 flights over here and, his time and effort. So even at his flights, call it $1,000. And then he had a couple Uber rides and everything else. So we're over 10 grand right there, right? And that's just easy math. Guys, I'm leaving some stuff out. But let's get into the labor. Okay, so we've already got $10,000 into the shitbox, cold hard cash, plus all the free donations. And I kid you not, and I was shocked. I went through and I said, okay, how many hours did it take to go get the car? How many hours did it take to go and apply and get the bonded title for it? Because that car came without a title. So I had to apply, get the bonded title, do all that paperwork. I had to drive into town. I had to do this, I had to do that. All of Gary's time when he was here. So collectively, us wrenching on the car. Guys, I roughly, on the safe side, had 378 hours worth of time spent on the shitbox. And you got to remember all those days after hours when I was done working on other stuff and you know what I mean, putting away on the car. Like, that's not free stuff. And if you want to talk about, we could add on the fuel it took to get to the show and everything else, but we're not even, or the hours, that's 24 hours of driving that we did, but we're not even including that. So 378 hours of labor. Now, if we were doing this out of the love of our hearts and the passion and everything else, of course, that's zero, and the shitbox value would be about $10,000, which really isn't that bad. And that's usually, you know, I would say in terms of resale, you know, if you were to put the shitbox up or saw one for sale, that's, I would hope that's probably around the range that we go for. Like, there's a lot of money in parts. Like, you can strip the wheels and tires off, pull the 347 out, T5 conversion. There's fresh black tweed seats in there now. There's a lot of great money. There's a perfectly disc brake converted rear end with Taurus calipers and 373 gears in it, fully serviced. Like, there's another $1,000, right? So you can strip the car down and easily get your money back. And now it's actually got a title. It's got a clean Texas blue bonded title, which in 3 years the bond can be removed, and so on and so forth. But labor, guys, if we were at $20 an hour, like, does anyone even remember when you could pay $20 an hour? Like, if there's somewhere out there that you can get work done for $20 an hour, by all means, let me know where I can go. I'll probably ship my car there, and it'd end up being cheaper than, like, I wouldn't have to work. You know what I mean? But $20 an hour is $7,500, okay? If we were $50 an hour, which some people will work for 50 now, it's not unheard of this day and age. That'd be some guy working out of their garage. You're definitely not going to a commercial shop and paying $50 an hour labor. That's for damn sure. But even at $50 an hour, you're just under $19,000 in labor. So that's almost $30,000 in, call it the friend hookup shop fee at $50 an hour. And then what if we were at, and it's not even market rate, $125 an hour, okay? Now, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or Gary's horn or, you know, make ourselves sound better than we are, but my argument is that if I charged you $150 an hour to work on your Fox body, and the job took me 10 hours, right? So $1,500. And you took your car to a shop that hasn't worked on a Fox body before, or doesn't know the cars as intimately as we do, their 10 hours could take 15 hours. It could take them 20 hours. And maybe their labor rate is only $100 an hour. Well, you might very well end up at the same result, or maybe you even end up paying more. So factor that in when you guys are paying somebody to work on your Fox, number one. Number two, I didn't do the math at $150 an hour because that is like premium rate, but I did do math at $125 an hour, which I thought was a very realistic rate, and correct me if I'm wrong. At $125 an hour, it's $47,000 plus the $10,000 in hard costs and the parts and the cost of the car and everything else. You're over a $50,000 Fox body that has bad paint, looks cool, goes really well. That car loves to get some wide open throttle into it. Is it the fastest thing out there? No. Is it the best riding, braking, performing car out there? Absolutely not. But that is probably a pretty accurate representation of how a project can get out of hand, how the reality of building these cars is not cheap. You know, there's a lot of people that say, oh, I'm just going to go out and buy one done next time. Well, there's some truth to that. However, sometimes if you're buying one that's done, are you potentially buying somebody else's problems or stuff that you got to end up redoing? And you normally run across that in the average Fox market. The average Foxes are the ones that cause the most headaches and take up the most time, to be honest with you. The Shitbox was so shitty that your expectation level was so low And anything that you do actually improves the car. And in fact, everything about the car got stripped off, like all the suspension, all the brakes, the motor came out, like the motor kind of lucked out on, but still a lot was changed and gone over and freshened up. Transmission was changed, all of that stuff. But we did luck out with the diff as well. You know, the carrier bushings looked like they had ended up being done and the fluid was fresh in the back and all that, but we still, you know, ended up converting to disc and swapping out the upper control arms and all that other good stuff. So it's unreal. It really is. And a lot of you guys are probably wondering, well, what's next for the Shitbox-Fox? Well, let me take a sip of beer and I'll tell you. So Shitbox-Fox was left up in Detroit at a friend's place. Thank you so much, Glenn, for looking after her. And it is going to be at Foxtoberfest on display there. And, you know, I'm excited. I really am. The car was so last minute in terms of getting together and getting it across the finish line all the way up to the show. Never really got to enjoy the car. It was just too much stress around the situation. So after Foxtoberfest, gonna bring the car back here to Texas. I'm going to enjoy it as a shop car, drive it around. Might even get to convince my better half to come for a ride with me now that it's got cold AC and all the amenities. Just looks ugly. I shouldn't say that. The car actually looks pretty cool. And from there, ultimately decide what's going to happen with it. But I can tell you this, I found another Shitbox and it is even shittier. Members to my channel would have seen the picture on the community page. I do post up, I guess, member only type content there. I'm sure photos and everything else will get leaked, or I'm not going to be able to keep my mouth shut about it because it should be showing up in the next few weeks. I can tell you this, if you think the Texas patina on the Shitbox was cool or bad from sitting out in the Texas sun for however many years it did, wait until you see what a car looks like that sat in the Florida sun for 25 years straight. Last time this car was registered on the road was 1996. It's assumed to have like somewhere just over 36,000 original miles, somewhere around there. I'm gonna have to validate it when I see the odometer, but that's what Carfax was telling me. And yeah, it is one big pile of shit. And I'll give you guys one hint. Remember the Project Burnt Vert that I had that everybody's wondering what happened to it? Well, nothing's happened to it. I did what I did to the car in those few videos and the owner still has it. Who knows what he's gonna do with it or what direction he's gonna go. But I will say this, we will probably call this one Project Sunburnt Vert. And gonna make convertibles cool again because they are. Convertibles are badass. I'm hoping to bring my stalker over to Foxtoberfest this year. And, you know, after Spano winning Best in Show last year, that was a convertible. Gearhead's got his convertible. Castle's got his convertible. Like, all these guys seem to hate on convertibles, but we all have them. So stay tuned, stick around for that. Hopefully you enjoyed this little bit of a sit down. I needed it, and we'll see. We'll keep some shitty content coming. I know I said I wouldn't touch any more shit in a while, but I just can't keep my hands away from an opportunity like this one. So till next time, we'll see you back here on the Infamous Project.